let's take a look at how much PSI pressure endurance a lubricating oil film can have when two metals are rubbed together, and as a result of rubbing, to what extent the wearing off occurs. Imagine the activation button on the testing device as the starter in your vehicle. Liner wall, namely cylinder liners, which is a fixed part of the engine. The movable part in the engine, namely cylinder or crankshaft. Crankcase, the part which compresses hydraulic pressure. The crank, which initiates rubbing. Let's fix the steel shot, which has a smooth surface. Pour some synthetic lubricant oil into the crankcase and start the engine. As you can see now, there aren't any contacts between metals, and lubrication is proceeding. Now, let's initiate rubbing. As you can follow, the engine is locked up because of the bearing failure. Now, you can see lubricant oil's endurance point and the amount of wearing off occurred on metal. Let's rotate the unworn side of the steel shot for a new testing session. Now, we're adding an additive to synthetic lubricant oil and following the same stages in the previous testing session. Let's start the engine. As you can see now, there aren't any contacts between metals, and lubrication is proceeding. Now, let's initiate rubbing. As you can follow, the engine is locked up because of the bearing failure. Now, you can see lubricant oil's endurance point and the amount of wearing off occurred on metal. There's no difference between lubricant oil with an additive and without additive. The additive we poured into lubricant oil has no effect on it. In our new testing session, let's pour lubricant oil out of the crankcase and add fresh lubricant oil in it. Now, we're adding a fresh and expensive additive into synthetic lubricant oil and rotating the unworn side of the steel shot for a new testing session. We're following the same stages in the previous session. Let's start the engine. As you can see now, there aren't any contacts between metals, and lubrication is proceeding. Now, let's initiate rubbing. As you can follow, the engine is locked up because of the bearing failure. Now, you can see lubricant oil and the expensive additives endurance point and the amount of wearing off occurred on metal. There's also no difference between this testing session results and the previous ones. The expensive additive has no effect on synthetic lubricant oil. Let's take a look at the results of testing sessions that we've performed to show you the difference of 101 Nano Teknoloji synthetic lubricant oil additive. The first testing session, worn and rough surface. The second testing session, worn and rough surface. The third testing session, worn and rough surface. Now, let's test the incredible power of 101 Nano Teknoloji synthetic lubricant oil additive. We're pouring lubricant oil out of the crankcase and adding fresh synthetic lubricant oil in it. Now, we're adding 101 Nano Teknoloji synthetic lubricant oil additive into synthetic lubricant oil. Let's rotate the unworn side of the steel shot for a new testing session. we're following the same stages in previous sessions. Let's start the engine. As you can see now, there aren't any contacts between metals, and lubrication is proceeding. Now, let's initiate rubbing. As you can remember from previous testing sessions, we're on the stage where the engine is locked up because of the bearing failure right now. Let's stop the engine to observe wearing off level. As you can see, there's scarcely any wear off on the surface. 101 Nano Teknoloji is providing a continuous and endurable lubrication by creating a unique lubricating oil film between metals. Let's rotate the unworn side of the steel shot and make testing conditions harder. This time, we're exerting 3 times higher pressure on synthetic lubricating oil additive than we have exerted on other additives before. Let's observe the moment when the engine overheats and lubricating oil is mixed with water. Now, we're adding a little amount of water with antifreeze into the crankcase. As it can be seen, even in this hard situation, 101 Nano Teknoloji lubricating oil film keeps its endurance. Finally, we're pushing all the limits and leaving the car without lubricating oil. Right now, we're all witnessing this perfect protection and lubrication. 101 lubricating oil film is keeping its endurance and the engine is still working. Now, we're stopping the engine to observe wearing off level. Lubricating oil film generated by 101 Nano Teknoloji keeps its endurance and protection even under hardest conditions and minimizes wearing off on metal. It makes the engine work safer and easier. The first testing session, synthetic lubricant oil under 25 psi pressure, worn metal. The second testing session, synthetic lubricant oil and expensive lubricant oil additive under 25 psi pressure, worn metal. The third testing session, synthetic lubricant oil and 101 Nano Teknoloji lubricant oil additive under 80 psi pressure, worn metal. Due to its unique compound, 101 Nano Teknoloji lubricating oil additive shouldn't be mistaken for other oil additives in the market. These testing sessions haven't been performed to discredit other products in the market. They have just been performed to demonstrate the difference of 101 Nano lubricant additive technology to our customers.